Carrie's going to talk about COVID and religion right now. And his guest is Patti Denise-Henry. Carrie?
Yes, thank you so much, Lisa. So this morning I'm chatting with Patti Denise-Henry, who is a hospice chaplain, an author, recording artist, also recognized as a minister, psalmist, teacher, and much more. I'm very excited to chat with her this morning. Good morning, Patti.
Pleasant good morning to you.
Thank you for joining us this morning. And we are chatting COVID and religion. So from your experience as a minister, psalmist, chaplain as well, what has been your interaction with people in regards to the COVID-19 virus and their stance on their religion? What is the general feedback from people?
The general feedback is that I realize that a lot of the religious divides are gone. It is more a collective group of people looking for hope and words of encouragement and really coming for it from a non-denominational standpoint. And that is a beautiful thing for me, where we have a common ground. There is a problem. It's creating fear and anxiety. And they're just looking really for a tone. They're looking for some sense of resolve and a promise of a better tomorrow. And that's where I come in.
Have you experienced where there were people who had previously not had any faith or not followed religion at all? You know, they are now reaching out and, you know, for some semblance of hope that, you know, a higher power can help them. Have you experienced that as well?
I have experienced that, and there's a saying that a drowning man would grab for a straw. And a lot of that is taking place right now because a lot of the myths that's floating around about the end of times and people are not sure about, you know, their eternal security. And so, yes, I am getting some of those calls.
You know, and we are chatting with you, and you are live in Houston. And
Yeah.
what is the general feel of the people, you know, in Houston itself? Not necessarily people who are reaching out for religious purposes or for, you know, for solace of some sort, but what's the general feel of it there in Houston?
Well, of course, when all this began, everybody had their own conspiracy theory, or it's a hoax, or and then you see the seriousness as it came to Houston. You can tell in the grocery stores it was like a feeding frenzy. There were still people who were not adhering to, you know, the social distancing. But now that we have New Orleans as our neighboring state, and there's so much going on there. We've had several cases here, a few deaths in Houston. And so you're seeing the streets now empty, people starting to recognize that, hey, this thing is going to get worse before it gets better. So they're taking it more seriously.
Definitely. And part of your experience has been doing counseling for people who are actually on their deathbed as well. Could you tell us a little of your experience with that in your career thus far, your ministry thus far?
Normally in hospice, you know, we have 6 months or less when we walk the terminal diagnosis journey with the patient. Of course, I have not been allowed to be in access to anyone that has that. I'm not a frontline type hospice provider, but I did have someone very close to me whose husband was on hospice. And unfortunately, the hospital where he was were not accepting any visitors. And they would not allow the spouse to come see her husband, knowing that he was dying. They had to make a demand to get him out of the hospital where he died peacefully at home 2 days later. Anything we have to do right now will be just like we're handling it, either by Zoom or Skype, where we provide those words of comfort and peace to the dying. And it's all done no longer face-to-face, but we can handle it over the phone.
And, you know, from the experience now, there are so many families who have lost loved ones because of the COVID-19 virus. Were you able to chat with and speak to and minister to anyone, you know, from your position as a bereavement counselor?
Not at this time for COVID. Other deaths during this cycle, of course. I believe more of my work is going to be lent towards bereavement. We have not had that many cases in Houston to where all chaplains are called out to provide spiritual support services. But what I'm doing right now Normally when a patient comes to me, I have 6 months or less to build a relationship with them and the family. But now I've been making little Facebook Lives and sending out words of encouragement and hope, almost like a pre-bereavement service then, helping us to get the conversation going. What if, how to prepare just in case. Let's get the business of it out of the way so that, I'm just busy giving tools in case it's needed.
All right, and just if you had one message of hope before we leave, because we're almost out of time, if you had one message of hope to give the viewing public right now, what would that be?
One of the things I like to say is that we have not been through just one storm. We have been through many storms. And storms, no matter how horrible they are, have proven to not last forever. And I say we have one job: survive the storm. Survive the storm. Get you a promise, get you a loved one, and survive the storm.
A beautiful way to end this segment. I want to thank you so much, Patti Denise-Henry, who's a hospice chaplain, author, recording artist, as well as many other titles, for joining us this morning and giving us this message of hope: survive this storm. All right, we're going to call it a wrap for that.